Rain had begun some time before first light, a soft patter that grew into a steady drum roll against the rooftops of Granite Hollow, one of those half-forgotten American towns where the highway bends just enough to miss the main street, and travelers see nothing but a lonely gas station sign flickering in the mist. In daylight, the place looked as if it had slipped out of a sepia photograph. Red brick storefronts from the 1930s, peeling white porches, a rust-scabbed water tower that still bore a hand-painted eagle clutching a ribbon that read, "Service above self." At dawn, though, with clouds sagging low and water cascading off gutter pipes, Granite Hollow felt like a memory breathing in real time, quiet, suspended, bracing itself for something it could not yet name. 4 blocks from the square, the police station sat at the corner of Locust and Penn, a single-story bunker of cinder block clad in pale green paint. Fluorescent lights buzzed inside, casting a flat yellow glow over linoleum floors that had been scrubbed so often the pattern had faded to the color of sour milk. The lobby smelled of damp uniforms and burnt coffee, ordinary, indifferent, as though life here were measured only in traffic citations and the occasional bar scuffle. But this morning would etch itself into the town's marrow, turning that indifferent air into something heavy, electric, unshakable. At 6:47 a.m., the front door banged open on a gust of wet wind. Officer Trey Beaumont strode in first, steam rising from the shoulders of his dark jacket. He was 27, proud of the hardness in his voice, the squared line of his jaw. Behind him came Officer Hank Denton, a decade older and twice as broad, boots leaving small ponds on the tile. Between them shuffled an old man, wrists cuffed, coat drenched, head bowed beneath a faded black baseball cap. His steps were careful, almost courteous, as if he feared disturbing the silence more than the officer's grip on his arms. Chief Carter Briggs looked up from the report he'd been studying and frowned. Rainwater tapped upon the window near his desk, slow and deliberate, like fingers counting down. "What's this?" he asked, voice clipped. He prided himself on never wasting a syllable. "Found him on the courthouse steps," Beaumont said, shaking drops from his hair. "Sitting there like a statue. Wouldn't move, wouldn't show ID. Kept holding a flag like it was a shield." Denton lifted a clear evidence bag. Inside, neatly folded in military triangles, lay an American flag. Corners, sharp despite the damp, dark stripes gleaming beneath fluorescent light. Another bag held a well-worn coin the size of a 50-cent piece, tarnished, edges smooth from decades of handling. "And he says he's a veteran," Beaumont added with a half-laugh, as though the word carried no more weight than fisherman or retiree. Chief Briggs's eyes skimmed the old man. He saw the trim of a once expensive field jacket, mud-spattered boots polished despite the weather. The cap's embroidery had frayed with age, but 3 lines of gold thread remained legible. Vietnam, Desert Storm. Honor above all. Briggs felt a twinge of unease, then buried it beneath command. "Name?" The old man lifted his head. His eyes, pale blue, glassy yet unbroken, found Briggs's and held them without a flicker. "Elias Monroe," he said, voice gravel-soft, like a match struck in a cave. Briggs waited for more. None came. The silence stretched, thickened. Rain hammered the roof. Somewhere deeper in the building, a printer hummed and stopped. "Charges?" Briggs asked. "Loitering. Refusal to identify." "Possible trespass," Denton recited. He glanced at Beaumont, seeking affirmation. Beaumont nodded. Briggs exhaled through his nose. "Book him. We'll sort the paperwork after shift change." The sergeant on duty, Greg Mills, rolled his chair back from a flickering monitor. Chief, phone's been ringing off the hook since 6. He gestured to the blinking light on line 3. Unknown caller, scrolling in blocky green letters. Keeps calling, hanging up, calling again. Government exchange code. Probably a prank, Briggs muttered, already turning away. Elias Monroe's gaze drifted toward the phone, lingered there with an odd intent, then settled back on nothing at all. He made no protest as they led him down the hallway. Yet every footstep felt precise, grounded, like a man counting distance in a place he didn't plan to stay. While Monroe was processed, the town outside yawned awake beneath bruise-colored clouds. The morning Ledger delivery truck splashed through puddles, leaving damp papers on stoops. At Dolly's Diner, cook Manny Vargas clicked on the neon open sign, its red glow flickering against rivulets of rain. Inside, the radio murmured a country ballad about broken hearts and dusty roads. No one yet knew Granite Hollow's own heart was about to crack open. Across the square, the bronze soldier statue stood sentinel, rifle angled skyward, rainwater beading on his helmet like sweat. At its base rested a folding lawn chair, empty now, legs sinking in mud, and beside it, footprints half erased by fresh runoff. A passerby, one of the middle-aged commuters who left town each dawn for office parks 40 miles east, slowed, frowned at the chair, shrugged, and moved on. In Granite Hollow, questions seldom traveled faster than habit. Back in the booking room, Mills fingerprinted Elias, pressing each time-worn finger onto the scanner glass. The old man neither resisted nor complied with eagerness. He existed in a calm limbo, as though he had slipped the net of ordinary consequence. Mills, veteran of 2 decades, felt unease crawl up his spine. There was something familiar in Monroe's stillness, the quiet alertness of someone who had once waited in darker rooms for fates far worse than misdemeanor processing. When the prints uploaded, the workstation chimed an error tone. No match. Retain for review. Mills tried again. Same result. System lag? Out-of-state record? He jotted a note, telling himself it was nothing, but his pulse ticked faster. At 7:15, Beaumont dumped Monroe's belongings on the property desk. The folded flag, the coin, the cap. He paused, twisting the coin between thumb and forefinger. On one side, a soaring eagle, wings spread. On the reverse, 13 names etched so finely the letters blurred together. A date ran around the rim, 4th of March 1969. Beaumont scoffed, tossed the coin onto a tray. It spun, caught fluorescent glare, then fell flat with a ringing ting that seemed to linger longer than metal should. Elias's eyes flicked toward the sound, soft as a sigh. Outside, the rain slackened to mist. Gray light seeped over clapboard houses and storefront windows, illuminating "Support Our Troops" decals curling at the corners. Granite Hollow liked to think of itself as patriotic, a place that remembered sacrifice, yet for many residents, veterans, were more myth than neighbors, figures who marched proudly in 4th of July parades and vanished into quiet shadows the other 364 days. That paradox weighed nowhere heavier than in the life of Elias Monroe. For years he had tended the forgotten, driving fellow veterans to appointments, sitting at bedsides no family visited, mending broken picture frames in a VA hallway gallery only volunteers still noticed. He spoke little of himself, but those who saw him in passing sensed history flickering behind his smile, like the distant orange of artillery fire glimpsed on ancient film. Yet, outside the VA's peeling walls, his face was just another creased silhouette in a town that moved on from wars faster than it rallied for them. At 7:28, the silence inside the station fractured. Line 3 rang again, shrill, insistent, almost agitated. Mills glanced at Briggs's closed office door, hesitated, then reached for the handset. Granite Hollow Police. Sergeant Mills speaking. Static hissed. Then a voice low and clipped. Patch me to your chief. Code red priority. Mills blinked. May I ask who's calling? Special Agent Caleb Rourke, Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is regarding a detainee currently in your custody. Patch me through. Now. Before Mills could respond, Briggs opened his door. Let it go to voicemail. We're busy. The IDD chief's tone brooked no debate. Mills, skin prickling, replaced the handset. The light kept blinking. Angry red. In the holding cell, Elias Monroe closed his eyes. His lips moved, not in prayer, but in the measured cadence of memory, as if reciting coordinates under breath. Outside, clouds began to roll again, darker, coiling over the hills like smoke from some unseen artillery barrage. The day had barely broken, yet the air already tasted of reckoning. Granite Hollow did not know it, but this quiet morning was about to splinter its simple narrative of law and order, pride and oblivion. The town that claimed to honor its heroes would soon confront what honor costs when compassion is replaced by complacency, and what silence can unleash when pressed too far. All this pivoted on one discarded phone call, one folded flag growing, soggy in an evidence bag, and one ancient coin whose etched names refused to fade. The rain would keep falling for hours, washing streets and clearing dust from bronze memorials, but it could not rinse away the decision made in that fluorescent room, to treat dignity as disturbance, to cuff a man whose greatest weapon had always been his quiet service. And in the distance, somewhere between the mountains and the memories, 3 unmarked SUVs were already carving narrow lanes through the watery dawn, engines humming a promise that Granite Hollow's indifference was about to meet a history it had long tried to forget.